Ever since the pandemic, a lot of people have been buying and selling houseplants. Today, we're going to go through some of the most lucrative aroids and other houseplants that you can grow yourself and then sell yourself. We'll be considering most of these plants that you'll be buying a mother plant and then taking propagations off of that plant, because a lot of the flipping marketplace is mostly over, except for some of the more expensive plants. But the best return on investment you're going to get is by buying, holding that plant, growing it out, and taking propagations from it, rooting them out, and selling them off. Okay, even despite my challenges with importing this plant, I think if you start this plant in tissue culture and you grow them up like that, the Burle Marx Flame Monstera still has a margin that you can make money off of. It's been one of our more successful plants this year, and I believe you can get the tissue culture at about $30 or so, maybe like 20 to 30 some dollars, and then grow them up in 4-inch pots and sell them for right around 100. I thought I remember seeing Shane at Gabriella Plants drop the Burle Marx Flame and 4-inch pot or 3-inch pot for $120. They did sell out at that price, but that's kind of the going rate. And I believe you can get them in TC for like I said, about $20 to $30. You got to grow them out, not kill them off. Be really careful importing, as you saw in the last video. The few we had on our site, I believe we sold for between like 90 and 130, somewhere in there. Next up is the Epipremnum marble. I really adore this plant. I think it is quite beautiful and creates those really neat, almost like mini Monstera-like fenestrated leaves. And it has great coloring. It seems very stable. I only had one of my vines revert. I initially bought the mother plant, I want to say for like $120. This is, a couple years back, so higher prices. But I bought it as a bushy plant, and I probably sold 20 cuttings off of it. So the return on that investment is quite good. On these plants, like the thing we're really looking for is stable variegation, and I would say like a vining plant typically. Anything that propagates really well, Epipremnums do really well at this. I've also made good money on the Epipremnum albo, the pinnatum. I know they don't sell for a lot, but you can buy a small one, grow it up, and then sell each 4-inch pot for $15 to $25. And when they grow up much larger and you give them something to climb on, they do get those really massive leaves, which I really, really like. See, like, is this an epi? Wow. Or is this giganteum? Could be giganteum. I don't know. Tell me down in the comments what you think. This looks more like how the epis turn out when they get much, much larger. One of our actually most profitable plants from a mother standpoint has been the Philodendron heartleaf variegata. Although some vines do revert, it is a very stable plant. It's very pretty. It gets incredibly bushy and just seems to always have like a constant demand. Like the Epipremnum, it's not going to be a $100 plant, but for some spending cash, an ability to pay a few bills, chop and prop, give some to friends, and sell a couple over on Palm Street, potentially the sponsor of this week's video. Palm Street is a really cool place to buy and sell some rare plants that you might have. You don't have to do a live. You can actually just enter like a simple normal listing with a fixed price and list an item for sale. It's a great way to get your feet wet in the plant selling and buying game, and the prices are very good. Click the link down below to get $5 off your first purchase on the Palm Street app. And thank you to Palm Street for supporting this episode. Our original mother, I think it might be a mother of a mother of a mother. We've probably sold, maybe we had 3 mothers at like 2021, 2022 pandemic, and we've probably sold like hundreds of this plant. It has been a bill paying plant. Yes, they don't sell for much, maybe max out at like 35 these days, but it's a very stable plant that just pays bills. And we love those plants. They're not fancy, but they pay the bills for a plant shop. If you guys don't know, my name is Chris and I run Pretty and Green. We are an online plant shop. We started on Etsy, then we started our own website, and now we make YouTube videos also. Okay, next up is the Monstera standleyana aurea. Now the aurea version of this, not the albo version, because I know Costa dropped theirs, but the aurea variegation of this plant is quite stable and continuously sells. Also in that $15 to $35 range per 4-inch pot. But if you're chopping and propping and keeping a mother plant, this plant gets pretty bushy. Watch out for spider mites because it will get some bugs. Unlike most other monsteras, it actually gets bugs. So check out the standleyana aurea for a bill-paying plant. Syngonium Panda Galaxy War. I bought one of these plants and I think I paid like $75 on Facebook Marketplace. I probably sold like 30 plus cuttings off of this plant. And the same goes for the Syngonium albo. They're both kind of unstable in variegation. You just trim off the branches that don't do well. But this plant was very lucrative, as is the albo, because it propagates just accidentally. All these that I've gone through propagate really well. Stay tuned for us to release a propagation chamber. I don't want to say too much about it, but stay tuned for us to release a how-to on building yourself one and how we're rooting these plants out really easy. But the Galaxy War is beautiful. It roots you chop it off, put it in some aeroid mix in like a humidity tent, and it takes off. I think this is a pink splash. Yeah, the pink splash illusion also did well. So I was quite happy with that plant in terms of return on investment. All right, kind of a shocker maybe, and maybe a lot of people don't love this plant, but the Monstera adansonii Thai mint, or mint Europe, whatever you want to call it, the minty flecked version of the adansonii propagates so well, is always pretty, doesn't go for a lot of money. Motorcycles are so annoying when I'm trying to film this. But though it's not a fancy plant, $15 to $30 per 4-inch pot, it returns the money you invest in this plant. It grows fast, it propagates accidentally. Love the adansonii. Now, the albo and the aurea, I've had my own rough spots with that plant. We bought one for super expensive in the pandemic. It was $1,200 and we lost on that plant. Frankly, it went all white. It was tragic. But now I bought some from the recent import. I talked about it in last week's video. I think I paid $40 per plant from import, and they survived import well, as monsteras do. Some monsteras, if they're packed right, I should say. And the albos and aureas can be lucrative also. Just be more careful because of the higher variegation. They're going to root and propagate slower than that mint version. They will sell for a higher dollar, so maybe about $100, $80, $75 to $125 per 4-inch pot will be your retail price. All right, one of our most lucrative plants by far has been the Philodendron Burle marx variegata. Although semi-unstable, you can see here a big chunk of it will go green. Just trim that back. But the variegated parts of this plant, I think because it's such a stunning pattern to most of us, check out for spider mites because they have that soft leaf. This plant just always sells. And you can like take small little divisions, put it in a tiny little 2-inch, 3-inch pot in some humidity with aeroid mix, and it will propagate in 2 weeks. They tend to sell in the 4-inch pot for $25 to $45. You're seeing the sweet spot here. And I'm not saying that you can't take a risk and go buy a Monstera tricolor and take a chop of it. But I'm just saying for the average person, that just is pretty insane. And of course, you can also go out and like do alocasia, but that depends on corms. And to be honest, I tried to do that a little in the start of the year and I didn't get the corm production that I really wanted to see. Maybe I was doing something wrong, but that's also an avenue for growing out and propagating more plants. But tissue culture is really the way with alocasia. Philodendron, Florida Ghost, the minty versions, or like the high white ones, sell the best. About $30 to $50 per plant in the 4-inch size, and they just consistently sell, at least here in the US. These are really pretty to me still. Damn, that is a really good one. The high white. I love when they do have some minting on them like that, and that's very common to have the lower leaves drop off like that. I think we bought like 9 mothers in 2021, and I think they're maybe $100 each, but yeah, it's probably in the hundreds of plants that we've been able to chop and prop out off of those. I can't talk about buying and selling and propping and mothering plants without talking about the Monstera albo as it relates to our business. This has been our bread and butter. But the key with this plant is keeping it in a safe and healthy mothering area that it grows really fast and propagating it successfully. We have like above a 99% chance of success when we propagate the Monstera albo. And I want to share that method with you guys coming up here soon. We have had to keep it a bit of a trade secret, just it's the nature of business. Stay tuned as we release more details on how to propagate the Monstera deliciosa in general very rapidly and very successfully. There will be a video on here. I'm not sure how I want to release it yet because it's probably the biggest secret, and actually it is, that we've kept, and it's time to let it out. So stay tuned for that. But thank you guys so much for being here on another video about plants. Come back next week for another video. Have a good one.